Hello, I'm Curt Bonk from Indiana University, IST, talking about the pedagogical ideas I had embedded in my proposal about video chatting with experts in R511. That didn't quite happen exactly as planned. I had two sections that I was going to teach in the fall of 2019, one online, one face-to-face. The problem is a lot of students aren't showing up on campus these days. And so the face-to-face class kind of went away. So I was with the online class. I could experiment there. In addition, I was teaching 795, our 795 dissertation proposal preparation. Well, let's try it there too, in the fall. In the spring, I was teaching two sections of the 30th anniversary edition of R678 Emerging Learning Technologies. And I tried it there too, in both sections, and wow, it was fabulous. So while I couldn't try it in the fall with a face-to-face class, the pedagogical idea there was to have students bring in video snippets from the AACT, the Association of Educational Communications and Technology, Legends and Legacy videos. AACT has been videotaping lots of old people, or famous people, and putting them up on the web for young people to watch and get motivated into the field, into whatever field this is. And so I've been using those Legends and Legacy videos for a number of years, and I thought it might be cool to try something a little different. Have students bring in snippets from them, have them contact the professors that might still be alive that are in the videos, have them write little papers related to those video snippets, and have them nominate people to be the guest expert for the week and get bonus points for doing so. There are a lot of different spin-offs that could happen with the videos, and really to try and apprentice them into learning. And so I was trying a lot of different pedagogical ideas, and we'll see if I was successful or not when the course evaluations for spring happen, because this is week 14 right now. But the fall semester, I must say, went pretty good. I had a guest every week in R511, the Ed Tech Foundations course. In the 795 dissertation prep, I had a few experts come in, maybe 5, 6, or 7 or so, maybe 8, 9, maybe all 50. No, I had about half the weeks, maybe I had an expert come in, maybe a little more than half. I want to show you some of the pictures and the images from the synchronous sessions that we had so you can get a sense of what's going on. You can feel it and be part of it and maybe get some ideas as a result of watching it. So now I'm going to share my screen, and you can see in here it talks about the live video chats proposal that was funded. Live video chats with experts and recorded shared online videos. Shared online videos, all over the world, all over the web. And you can use YouTube Talks, TED Talks, CNN, BBC, whatever. So I'm recording these things most weeks, and it's optional to come to the synchronous session. At IU, we can't require it. We can have them watch the AAC Legends and Legacy videos, and my friend David Jonathan passed away about a decade ago, not quite. Ivor Davies, a former IST professor, Robert Gagne, famous, Malcolm Fleming. Everyone in this is extremely famous. And that's why I'm not in there yet. They've been trying to get me, but I don't want to be one of the formerly alive professors. Anyways, we can watch these. I have them watch 8, 10 of them and summarize the themes and what they've learned in them. So this is using archived video, existing video, to apprentice students into the field. And there's a lot of interesting comments made by each one of the interviewees. But in addition, you can, if they're still alive, like Mike Melinda, who taught this class, R511, created the class, and bring them in live and have them describe the class and their experiences, have them describe what they expect out of students, and talk about the history of the field and how it evolved over time. Have Tom Reeves come in and talk about the history of ed tech and instructional tech and how it changed over time. And his dogs may have changed too. But quite an interesting interview. Tom did a design-based learning session with both my 511 class and 795 classes. After that, we had Ali Card-Chelman, who wrote the book, one of the two books we were using in the class to debate concepts and issues. And we got to ask her about the design of the book. She's on the left-hand side there. And we had to ask her about where she's going next and the people she invited for the book and why she got them and so forth. So that was kind of interesting too. We also had some, in that session with Ali Carr, my former student Mena Ju is at Wayne State. We were debating with Wayne State students and Indiana students back and forth. Jingli Chang, a former student of mine who went to Shenzhen, China, went to Hong Kong, went to Hewlett Packard, to Stanford, all sorts of places. He's at MasterCard, talking about how he uses the content from the class in his everyday life. We're trying to help students see the content on display wherever they happen to be. We brought in Carol Watson, who's at the Kelley School of Business teaching various classes as a lecturer. And she's, again, talking about more the adult ed side of things within the class. She's an expert at adult learning and human performance technology and human resource development. We brought in Marty Siegel so that the semester ended after Carol Watson, sometime after. I'm not showing everybody that we brought in during the semester. To start the new one, and emerging learning technologies, the 30th anniversary issue, I thought we'd bring them the best of the best. So we brought Marty Siegel in, an IU professor, an informatics professor who only has 1 month left as an IU faculty. He worked in the Plato system at the University of Illinois. Basically, they designed chats and discussion forums and hypermedia and touch screens and all sorts of things in the Plato project. And he, as you can see, was a very entertaining kind of person. He's also part of this book, The Friendly Orange Glow. His research is described in there with incarcerated people in Illinois who were using computers back in the 70s. So he gave a good historical view of the field and how it's emerged over time. And they were just, my students were on the edge of their seats listening to him. He came to our face-to-face session in our 678. We had both face-to-face and online. And as you can see, it was quite fun. I had Jim Nagaya from Nigeria come into the class, who's taken 300 some MOOCs. Actually, it took 700, past 330 of them. And it was the week on MOOCs where he talked to my students about what he got out of taking 300 and some MOOCs, the equivalent of like 3 or 4 college degrees and an MBA on top. So he was inspiring that week. And we had, the sense of bandwidth issues and access issues that he was dealing with and struggling with, and still completed 300 MOOCs. And we got to ask him questions. We had Kylie Pepler, former IU professor at UC Irvine, talk about her current research when we got to the week on maker labs and participatory learning, which was their area of expertise. And when we got to the week on collaborative learning, we brought Charlie Miller from Minnesota, where they talk funny up there. We brought Charlie, who was a professor at Minnesota, had tenure, then decided to build a software tool that called Flipgrid. And Flipgrid has video discussions, Flipgrid. And Microsoft got interested in it and bought Flipgrid from him. And so he quit his job as a tenured professor and went to work for Microsoft. And he talked about his history within the field and publishing research and all that, and how it's dramatically changed moving to this new role at Microsoft or in Flipgrid headquarters in Minneapolis. So it's fascinating that week too, April 6th, that's just 2 weeks ago. You can see all the people clapping at the end. At the end of these sessions, we often have students reflect on what they've learned and talk about who they'd like to bring in. And they get bonus points for recommending someone. They get bonus points for actually bringing someone in. So there's a little incentive. And I have them often read articles from that person or read articles about the person and bring in questions based on those so they can ask intelligent questions for the person before they ever got there. Last night, we basically had a mini symposium with Charles Zubin, Connie Johnson, and Patsy Moskal. Patsy and Chuck at the University of Central Florida, the largest public university maybe in the country now. When Chuck got there 50 years ago, it was just a small little place. And he talked about adaptive learning and learning analytics. They were kind of doing research, joint research with Connie Johnson at Colorado Tech. So the three of them came in last night. We had three people inspiring my students into week 14 of our 6, 7, 8 on this, on emerging learning, talking about adaptive technology and learning analytics and personalized learning. And so Chuck had an article about 50 years of his life at the University of Central Florida campus that was published 2 weeks ago by UCF News. I think they have statues of him on campus, but they definitely have an award of best professor teaching online every year in his name. He's so famous on that campus. So my students had a real treat. He's quite a character, bring him in. And Patsy, who's now the director of the Research Initiative and Teaching Effectiveness, the Wright Center. Basically, Central Florida knew all about online learning and teaching online 20 odd years ago before anyone else. They were the stars, and they still are. After that, we took a break and we brought in Ann Hildoon from Minnesota. She's a writing and technical writing professor who's also been a vice provost and been chief information officer and many various roles at the University of Minnesota. She discussed her current research on learning analytics and personalization and so forth. So it was quite a fabulous week, and she showed us some visualization technology that she's been working on and dealing with. So, and my students read her articles and brought in the questions, and we'll discuss them in Canvas this week. So we bring them in, the experts in on Monday, and then we have discussion that wraps around their articles during the week. At the end of the semester, they can write a paper that summarizes what they learned from these synchronous chats and include maybe 5 or 6 or 7 of them to replace the midterm or to replace the final. This past month or month and a half, all of a sudden, because of this, I've created a new video chat weekly on Saturday nights at 5:30 with Chris Dede at Harvard, Young Zhao at Kansas, Punya Mitra at ASU, Arizona State, and Scott McLeod at University of Colorado, Denver, along with a professor in China. We've created a session called Silver Lining for Learning, where we discuss the future of education due to the coronavirus. What are the opportunities? And so we've had different heady discussions that are available. Go to silverliningforlearning.org, and you can actually watch our interview of Sagata Mitra, the TED Talk award-winning instructor, professor, who built the Granny Cloud, having great art teachers in the UK, train and tutor kids in India 1 hour a week, having the hole-in-the-wall technology in Mumbai, India, where you have a computer in the hole in the wall somewhere and the kids teach each other how to use it, or having souls, self-organized learning environments. Instead of teaching kids something, have kids just emerge out of chaos and organize the learning, guided discovery learning. Anyways, Sagata Mitra came in, my friends from China came in, from Shanghai, from Hong Kong, from Beijing, talking about how schools have been restructured due to coronavirus. We had Sagata Mitra and Tony Mays and his colleagues, Francis Vieira from the Commonwealth of Learning, talking about dealing with open schooling and disadvantaged youth and how we get them access to education in the age of the coronavirus. A fascinating place. Go to col.org, and they've got lots of free reports and lots of information that you might take and gather. I also had Will Richardson come in we had Will Richardson, a K-12 person, come in this past week, just this past Saturday, talk about changes that he's seeing in school systems today. So it's been quite fun, not only teaching with video chat in my own classes, but extending this out into my professional life beyond my classes. It's been an eye-opening experience. It's been a lot of fun. It's not been fully foolproof. It's not been without flaws or problems. You know, what I had mapped out here in my proposal for video chats isn't necessarily what happened or what transpired. I wasn't able to do some things in here, but on the other hand, I added 2 classes and tried things out in other sessions. In effect, got much more information and data related to the effectiveness of using video chats and bringing in experts to apprentice students to get them excited into the field and to use that authentic knowledge as a class assessment strategy, to have them interview people and talk to people and then reflect on what they did, and to think about their own careers as it relates to the various topics of the week. I've written an article for Tech Trends called Tapping into History via Video, Enlisting the Legends and Legacies of Our Field. I'm happy to send that to you. It was published a year ago in Tech Trends if you're interested. Now, I'm probably gone too long, so I'm going to have to cut this off, but I want to say that try this or try something else. It's exciting to extend your classroom beyond the borders, beyond where you've been. Extended classrooms, extended, enhanced, and transformed classrooms are where it's at. And we should all be trying something out because you're in the School of Ed, which was built to be a demonstration site for technology in education. It's part of the mission. You might not know it, but it is. And everyone should be trying something like this out and beyond. Good luck.